Welcome everybody to this 2021 Minnesota Ed Fi Onboarding Q&A session. My name is Paul Fried. I'm the lead trainer here at JMC, and I help people get going with their Minnesota Ed Fi onboarding. Truth be told, I'm not the most, I don't know how to do a lot with errors, but I'm learning. I get people going on the process, and if you've been part of our trains before, and I'm not going to say this a million times like I did yesterday, follow the process. But I can definitely help people kind of along the way as we go. So here's what we're going to do first. And I did this a little bit different last time, and I got a lot of positive feedback. We're going to quickly go through the errors real quick, take just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to see if anybody has any questions about specific things, and then we'll go from there. But the first error that people can receive is that 400 error. Again, these are typically communication errors. If that happens, try clicking the Minnesota Ed Fi Update Students by Grade Level button again to resubmit your data for this grade level. If it doesn't work right away, wait an hour or do it the next morning. It just means that the database is having trouble connecting to MDE. Could just be the interweb, could be that MDE site is moving slow or something like that. So that's an easy thing to do. Just be a little patient. You'll be good to go. All right. I'm starting to panic. I see a 403 error for the majority of my students in both my reports. No biggie. Your JMC school calendar is more than likely not set up correctly. So if you see a 403 error, just follow these directions, right? I think almost everybody has their calendar set up, but you got to make sure you have your term date set up. You don't have your term date set up, make sure to click on this video and you can watch that, or just go through the steps of the document that we sent out yesterday, or is in the YouTube video yesterday. And then, I'm getting this error. Student identifying information given does not match any students. This is occurring because the student is not yet in the MDE Ed Fi system, right? So since the new students in your district are not in the staging environment, the MD recommends ignoring these errors for now and addressing them when you move into production. So if you get that error, right here again, during your staging, student identifying information does not given does not match any students, you can just ignore it during staging, and then when you get to production, they can help you with that. All right, I'm getting an error about an invalid character in a student's name. Again, most likely it's a period in that student's middle name. Just go to the edit student data screen, move the period from their middle name. The reason we have that in there is it's not common, but it's kind of hard to figure out if you're doing that. All right, I'm getting an error about missing or incorrect ancestry information. Most likely a field was left empty. So go to the edit student data and click the race ethnicity tab to enter missing information for that student. Error type 6. I reported a student both to Mars and Ed Fi that I shouldn't have reported at all. This is a simple fix that only takes a few steps to correct. Helpful tip, go to Minnesota Ed Fi, delete student, find the student and delete them from the Ed Fi portal, then uncheck their Mars flag. So that's the main thing. Again, as we said early on in any of our Minnesota Ed Fi onboarding presentations, that the Mars flag is what determines if a kid is sent in via Ed Fi or not. So you want to make sure that that's correct, especially before you do your first submission. Because if you submit somebody that you don't want to, I know it is simple to do, right? You just go to Minnesota Ed Fi, delete a student and uncheck their Mars flag, but save yourself the step of having to do this, right? By just going in and unchecking their Mars flag, because you're going to have to do that either way. So that is that. So let's go to my presentation. You can use the Q&A chat feature as always to see if you have any questions that people have. But does anybody have any questions about uploading and creating and uploading Mars A and B files? That's something that schools have been doing for years. But last year I just said, does anybody have any questions? And we didn't get a lot of questions, and so which is good because the steps are pretty clear. But I try to kind of have some guiding questions this time. So I see a question that came in. Carmen says, when will you send out the slides from yesterday's webinar? Yesterday's webinar was very helpful, but I need those step-by-step directions. I did send those out, Carmen, yesterday afternoon, I believe. So if you didn't get them, why don't you just chat me your email here and I will send you, actually, I don't even need to do that. You could actually, the easiest thing to do, and this is, I've been trying to get people to do this as well to make sure that they can see all the up-to-date videos. If you go out to, and actually, if you just go to YouTube and you type in JMC training, okay? And you click on JMC training, which is the first one right here. Actually, it's actually, for me, it's the second one that comes up. I don't know if that's for everybody, but for me, but you can also go to JMC training and then clicking the videos here. When you click the videos, you're going to see them. It always has the most recent one. And I like people that just bookmark this page. I have it bookmarked because then if somebody has a question about a most recent video, I'll send them here. But I like this because then you're seeing all the most recent videos, right? Not just this one, but here it is right here, that Minnesota Ed Fi. So you should be good to go there. I want to make life easy for you. I will come in and I'll type an answer here. I'll send it to you as well so that you don't have to go search it, but I like to be able to do that. So, all right, Joyce says, I've tried deleting students, then unchecking on Mars. They still show up as missing in EdFi after uploading. So this is the problem, Joyce, right? And I want folks to understand this. This is why we have in the training saying that don't delete kids after you send files to EdFi, because now what you need to do with that, if you have a kid that's in EdFi that you want to delete, you now have to put that student back into JMC. With their Mars number and everything like that. So you have to go in, put their information back into JMC. Then you need to go and delete them out of the Minnesota Ed Fi delete a student, because you cannot, I'm going to answer live here. You cannot delete a student from Ed Fi by going to Minnesota Ed Fi delete student unless the student is in there. So if I had in there Paul, I don't know, Johnson, right? If I delete Paul Johnson from my JMC database, I can't delete him from EdFi. So if you went in and you deleted Paul Johnson from JMC and unchecked their Mars file, you delete it from JMC, they're not deleted from EdFi. You have to go put that student back in. I go to the view student data screen, put them back in with all their information they have from last year. Then you come here, may go to Minnesota Ed Fi, delete a student, and then you can go back and just uncheck their Mars flag. Don't delete them, just in case something happens in the future. So that's why we say don't. I recommend it. I know if you watched the Mars video, I said don't delete students, and I will say it again. I would not delete students out of JMC for this very reason. So to answer Joyce's question directly, if you have went in and there's a kid in Ed Fi that you need to delete, and you've deleted them in JMC already, you first need to go in, come back to view student data, put them in as a new student, put all their information in, then go to Minnesota Ed Fi, delete a student, find that kid, delete that student out, then go back to view student data. You can delete the kid out, but I'm just telling you, I wouldn't, because it's just so easy to come in, uncheck all their flags and save them, then they become inactive. And also you do it, but sure you can delete them, but I'm trying to get folks out of the practice of deleting them unless it's a duplicate student. Joyce said, I've done this. The student is not deleting JMC, just in EdFi. Okay, well, Joyce, if you're still having an issue with that, then I would just send in that email tech support. They can help you with that. I'm not sure without looking at that student, and also you want to make sure that you would be in production, right, Joyce, because you had that student. So if you have that, just email tech support and say, hey, I've got this kid. I'm trying to delete from EdFi. Tell us who the kid is. Maybe their student ID, some identifying factors, what school you're from, and they'll help you take a look at that. So great question, Joyce. But I'm glad I went over the other part too, because I wanted to show folks how to do that. So great. Okay. Next question. Are there any questions about the process of using the MDE ECST to generate your key and secret and then entering them into your JMC EdFi settings page? So any questions about that? That's one of the easiest, actually, as far as JMC goes, that's one of the easiest steps to do. And because it's all done on the MDE side, you're just copying them into JMC. Just reminding you, if in that staging environment, you do get an error when you're downloading information from the MDE, you'll always want to contact the MDE about that as well. Right. Topic number 3, does anyone have any errors during the start year steps that they were not able to resolve? Sometimes folks will get those 400 errors or 403 errors. Those are the most common ones that people will get. I said this yesterday in the training that guide at the end with the errors really helps people a lot along the way. And so that's why we don't have too many questions during this Q&A. Because we're trying to set you up for success. And the other thing is, if you've waited this long and, pat yourself on the back a little bit, that's a good thing, because we at JMC and MDE has really improved the way that they message people about errors. All right. Is there any program or special education history records that you need guidance in updating? Anything that came up that folks have, I can do my best to kind of steer you in the right direction. As new error codes come up, we try to, again, give you some information that we have in there as well. So now would be a great time to type those in. These are the things, again, that you would print to that import summary. You would print to a PDF and save to your desktop with the date and the name of the report, so that when you go through it, you can edit those items there. And you can also, then if you need help from tech support, you can email that to tech support. I said this before in the presentation, I'll say it again now, that if there's an area that you can't figure out, email that actual report in and highlight the item that you're having trouble with, and they'll be able to look and see what's going on with that particular student or that particular item there as well. That's why when Joy said, hey, I'm having trouble with this student, deleting that particular student ed file, I'll say, hey, let JMC tech support know who that, what school are you? Who are you? What's the student's name? What have you tried to do? Give them as much information as possible, and they'll be able to help you to do that. All right. And I think this is the last one here, and I'll just do any general questions. Did anyone receive any messages or errors while updating grade level data they were not able to resolve? I had a question that came up yesterday at the end of the session that somebody, and I might have mentioned this during the session yesterday. Hey, our error reports done by building, and they're not done by building anymore, right? Because information for the whole district is sent at one time by grade level, right? You don't send all the grades in at one time. You do it kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, one at a time, and that generates a report there. So that's the way that you'll disseminate those reports. If you have any questions about, if you have 2 different buildings, like 2 different elementaries or 2 middle schools or 3 high schools or whatever it might be, you'd have to send that same report to all the folks in those different buildings, and then they would go through and they'd fix the ones of those particular students that are listed there. All right, Stacy says, do I have to put economic indicator in the JMC Mars tab and the program history tab, same as special ed setting, or do I put them in the Mars tab and then special ed history? So the question is, do I have to put economic indicator in the JMC Mars tab? Yes, you want to do that. And program history? Yes. Same as special ed history settings. Do I put them in the Mars tab and special ed history? The answer to that is yes, Stacy. So you're basically, you and every school in the state of Minnesota is dual reporting. You're reporting via Mars and you're reporting via Ed Fi. And the other answer, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, Stacy. So this is a great question. If you then change a kid's, let's say you change their economic indicator, which is rare, but let's say it happens this year, you actually have to change it on the Mars tab and also change it on their program history tab as well. Because once we import that record for you, they're not direct. Actually, the answer to Stacy's question, she's saying is, are they linked? And they are not linked, and they're not meant to be linked, right? The state doesn't want them to be linked. They want you to edit in Mars and edit in Ed Fi. So there's a lift right now, right? I'll speak for the MD and say there's a lift, right, in making sure that both those records are the same, and that's why they do the comparison after you get done doing the report. But once that's done, then you just are maintaining those items that are listed there. Great. All right, great question. I like these good questions. Great, and then we're to my last slide here. Does anybody else have any questions that are topics that I haven't covered with the Minnesota Ed Fi onboarding? Again, somebody had a great question about how do you find that? How do you find the link? I put it under the answered items there. I sent the link there to Carmen, if anybody wants to bring it up. But again, just as a general, I don't know, best practice in JMC is definitely come in and bookmark this particular screen for our JMC videos, because I know I do a lot of the videos, so I'm probably pretty biased, but we try to make them valuable for people. And it's great for you to come in and just look and see, if you've got a lunch question or something like that, you can check and see what we've got listed there and send it to people that are in your team. Because if you're part of this Minnesota Ed Fi onboarding, I'm just guessing here that you are a person who manages your JMC for different users at your school, right? So having resources available can be helpful for you. Right. Well, I'll hang on for a couple minutes. That's all I got. Usually these sessions are kind of short and sweet, where people get to come in and ask those specific questions that we have. They're really great questions. We touched on really 3 good topics today. So if anybody has any questions, I'll hang on for a couple minutes. And if not, then we'll be good to go. My next Minnesota Ed Fi onboarding, I think, is next week. I'll try to be there on time, right? Then we'll be we'll be good to go. And then I'll have another Q&A session. So I think my Ed Fi onboarding next week, I'm guessing, well, I can look actually and see what people, if anybody's typing a question in. Next week, I think it's Wednesday and Thursday, just like it was this last week. So let's see here, or maybe not. Let's see here. Oh, no, it's not till the early October. That is correct, is the next items that we have listed there. So great. All right, well, hang on for another minute, see if anybody has any questions. If not, I hope everybody has a great day. Good luck following those directions, getting this process set up. I think, some people ask me, like, when should they start this process? I think this is a good time for schools to start the process. You're through the start of the school year craziness. It's not quite the end of the first term. Get going on those items so that you can start working on them. So, all right, I'll hang out for another minute, folks, and have a great day.